You've mentioned before that understanding and in meditation, when you look at the truth or when you experience what you really are in self-enquiry, that it's more direct. Well, let me say this. I've heard you say that when you have a thought, there's always a physical sensation, a perception of a physical sensation that corresponds to the thought. And
what I have said is that we usually think in terms of the senses. In other words, that a thought is accompanied either with an image or with a sound or with a feeling or with... So a thought doesn't exist in abstracto. I mean, not the one who discovered that, but it's, for instance, Bishop Berkeley mentions that. It's kind of oddity that abstract thinking doesn't exist, that we need always a sport of our thought in terms of the senses. Even if we think table, either we see the word table or we see some kind of a table. Or the sound table, but it's never completely abstract, you see. Okay, that's what I meant. Okay.
So we're not talking about, it could be it could be a physical sensation, but not necessarily.
Yeah.
It can be an image.
Yeah.
It can, yeah. Because where I was going is that you've said that it's much more direct to do self-inquiry or look directly at that sensation or perception as opposed to the thought. You can go there through the thought because that's the link to it, but going directly to the sensation itself or the perception is much more direct.
I don't remember in which context I have said that. Perhaps in the context of the visualizations we use during the yoga, perhaps, so that then usually when you hear the words, they may create images in you. And then these images, which are thoughts, right? Then they connect to real bodily sensations. So at some point we perhaps don't need the images, the bodily sensations come without images.
The body sensations referring to the yoga exercises themselves?
Yeah. Or it can be said also that a feeling or a sense perception that is directed to the truth can vanish more rapidly than a thought, than a logical thought. A logical thought is more of a bulldozer type of vehicle, whereas the feeling is more like a Ferrari.
In a sense, it's more tangible. It's a little more real.
Yeah, but quicker, also more direct.
And then in the sense of...
My teacher used to say it's closer to the truth, in that sense that it's more, it leads to it more directly. Okay. Often it would, that's why often it would take a lot of explaining to explain a feeling that went like that. You see, a feeling can be very subtle and at the same very direct, so then you could write. That's why writers who write novels, they would write 10 pages about a feeling that lasted 1 second.
And then in relation to earlier, like George and a couple of people mentioned having physical sensations, or when in meditation, you reach these points of relaxation, where, as you said a little earlier, something that may have been there for years, that was really maybe not even perceived, drops out. And that's, it's a little bit different angle on what you're saying about, it's more of a physical sensation.
Yes.
So can you say something a little more about that?
You have to experience it to know what I mean by that. But there are various aspects to the relaxation, the deep relaxation of the body in meditation, and there is an aspect which is continuous, so you go deeper and deeper, not unlike when you fall asleep, but sometimes there are also letting goes. You see, sometimes these letting goes may be voluntary because, I realize I was tense and I can let go of this tension. These are letting goes that are very superficial. Normally after some practice, you have let go of everything you could let go of, consciously. Now, the next step are subliminal or subconscious contractions, you see. So in this welcoming of the body, in this contemplation, they gradually come to the surface. And it may happen that as one comes to the surface during the meditation, that it opens up like a flower, and you feel it. It's almost independent from you. It's your body just opening up. And it's often localized in some part of the body, and then it's gone forever. And that in this process, the body becomes more and more transparent. And as a result, the seeming separation between the body and the world dissolves.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about because, over the years at different points I've experienced those types of dropping away. There's this sort of this dichotomy of things that sometimes there's physical sensations that come in, and then there's the thoughts about them because they're uncomfortable, and I want to do something about them. Yeah. And then there's the ones that you're talking about that weren't even perceived, that you're sitting and then there's just this very deep relaxation that just drops all of it away, even the ones that might have been there before that were, a holding on sort of discomfort.
But sometimes there is even really a physiological response, a somatic event that takes place. Mm-hmm. When you find a muscle or a portion of a muscle, all of a sudden, like something that has been like that for ages, all of a sudden opens.
And I've heard and read sort of explanations of things where it's like when those things come up, it's almost like I have this feeling at times when I experience things in that way, and I feel like, where is all this coming from? You know, where was that? And what I've seen before as an explanation is, well, that's always been there. You've not been aware of it.
Yes.
And if you weren't ready to let it go or experience it, you wouldn't see it now.
Yes, because it was part of the sense of me. It was part of that which creates this sensation of being here as this body. You know, in India they have the metaphor of the snake and the rope, where in the twilight, seeing a rope on the ground, on the floor, you believe it to be a snake. This is an image for the illusion of a separate entity, right? Which is in fact the support of which, the reality of which, the rope is the consciousness, the self. But this metaphor applies very well to the case of those identifications, those localizations with the body. As long as they are not seen fully, as they remain in the twilight, they create the illusion of being me. You see? But when the light of consciousness penetrates fully in there, then they are seen for what they are. So then the presence that was invested in those flows back to the space, if you will. After we have, and it is not necessary to have purified the body 100% of those, assuming that's possible, you see. But at some point, if it is purified enough, you are the space, you are knowingly the space. And then you may discover that over the course of your life, more things open. But there is a moment when you have left this sense of being an isolated element behind, with the suffering that goes with it.
Thank you.